Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I went camping alone near the edge of the Navajo Nation, deep in the Arizona desert. Maybe I should start by saying this. I'm not a spiritual guy. I didn't believe in ghosts, monsters, or ancient curses. I was just a man whose fiancée had walked out on him after 6 years, and I figured a solo trip into the quiet might fix the screaming in my head. Spoiler alert, it didn't. I picked a spot near a narrow canyon that dropped off sharply into red rock cliffs and scrub brush. The kind of place no cell signal ever reaches. I parked my truck half a mile up the trail, set up my tent by a dried riverbed, and lit a small fire. That first night was calm. Cold but calm. Stars stretched from horizon to horizon, and the silence felt like something holy. I didn't even bother with music or podcasts. I just sat there, watching the flames, thinking, try not to spiral. That's when I heard it. Eli, my name, soft, drawn out, like a breath carried on the wind. I froze. It sounded exactly like my mother, but my mother had died 6 years ago. I'd held her hand as the cancer took her. I thought maybe I was going crazy. I even said out loud, "You're tired." That's all. The mind plays tricks in the dark. But deep down, something in me, the child part that still feared closets and basements, was screaming. I didn't sleep that night. I sat upright in the tent, knife in hand, listening. The desert is never truly silent. There are always distant chirps, rustling leaves, maybe a coyote howling far off. But this was different. This was watching silence, like something was holding its breath, waiting for me to make a move. The next day, I packed my things and thought about hiking back. But part of me felt stupid. I hadn't seen anything. I was just shaken up, probably projecting grief. I stayed. God, I should have left. Night 2 was different. Just after midnight, the wind shifted. The fire flickered low, and I started hearing footsteps, barefoot, slow, crunching softly in the sand and gravel outside the tent. I held my breath. Then something brushed against the side of the tent. Just a soft touch, a drag, like fingers tracing the fabric. Then a giggle, in my voice. It was quiet, but there was no mistaking it. A broken, playful version of my own laugh. Like someone had studied how I sounded and was mocking me. I lost it. I tore out of the tent, blade drawn, screaming like a man on fire. I slashed at the air, spinning in every direction. "Come out," I yelled. "I'm not scared." But I was. I was more scared than I've ever been in my life. I took a step backward, just one, and the heel of my boot slipped on loose gravel. My head hit a rock hard. The world snapped sideways and went black. I don't know how long I was out. Minutes? Hours? When I came to, the fire was dead. My head was pounding. Blood had dried in my hair. My knife was gone, and something had been in my camp. My backpack was shredded, not torn like a person had rifled through it. Ripped. Long claw marks had slashed clean through the canvas. My food was gone. My phone was snapped in half and tossed aside like trash. But the worst part, the part that still makes my skin crawl when I think about it, was what I found near the fire pit. A leather pouch. Small, crudely tied with a strip of sinew. It hadn't been there before. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were bits of my hair. My fingernail clippings. Tiny shreds of my sock. It had been collecting pieces of me. I stumbled back and nearly vomited. I recognized what it was then, not from personal experience, but from stories I'd heard whispered on forums and horror threads late at night. Skinwalkers. They mimic. They mock. They wear your face like a costume. And to become you, they need pieces. Bits of you. Hair. Nails. Blood. I was alone. Miles from anyone. No service. Concussed. Bleeding. And something was watching. I didn't see it. Not clearly. But as I turned in every direction, heart hammering in my throat, I felt it. A shape at the edge of the trees. Not hiding. Just standing. Like it wanted me to know it was there. Tall. Too thin. Shoulders all wrong. Head tilted like a curious animal. In the air it hummed. Not with sound, exactly, but pressure. Like the world had taken a breath and held it. I didn't grab my things. I didn't even look back. I just ran, all the way up the trail to the truck. I don't remember starting the engine. I don't remember the drive. Just the feeling of being chased by something that never made a sound. I got home with a fractured skull and 32 stitches in my scalp. I told the doctors I fell hiking. I told my friends I'd had a rough weekend. I never told anyone about the pouch, or the voice, or the thing that wore my laugh like a mask. But some nights, when the house is still and the dark presses against the windows, I hear bare feet on the hallway floor. And sometimes I laugh in my sleep. Only it's not me. Story 2. We were somewhere south of Flagstaff, barreling down a cracked two-lane highway, the desert stretching endless in every direction, like a black ocean under a dead sky. It was just past 2 a.m. My cousin Alia was driving, white-knuckled on the wheel, and my brother Shane sat in the back, earbuds in, nodding to some beat only he could hear. I rode shotgun, half awake, watching tumbleweeds roll across the road like ghosts trying to cross. We were coming back from a weekend up north, just 3 adults trying to remember how to feel like kids again. Bonfires, beers, stories we swore were true. Shane even brought up skinwalkers around the fire, laughing about how his friend's uncle once saw one near Tuba City. None of us believed it. At least, not then. I wish I could go back and slap myself for laughing. It happened so fast. Alia slammed on the brakes. I jerked forward in my seatbelt, heart in my throat. Shane yanked his earbuds out, shouting, "What the hell?" And there she was, a girl standing on the side of the road, alone, her bare feet covered in dust. Her long, jet black hair stuck to her cheeks like wet rope. Her head tilted down, but I could see her face in the headlights. I swear to you, I swear to you, it was my sister, Lila. My dead sister. Same wide, innocent eyes. Same scar on her upper lip from the time she fell off her bike. Same yellow hoodie she'd stolen from me and never gave back. The same hoodie she'd been wearing the night she died, 3 years ago. The night our house burned to the ground while I was out getting milk. I came home to fire trucks and screaming. Lila's body was never recovered. Only bits. Enough for them to say she was gone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I must have whispered her name without meaning to because Alia looked at me and said, "Was that?" Then, before I could stop her, she flung the door open. "Wait!" Shane yelled. "Don't open the—" Too late. The girl looked up. She smiled. And then she said it. Her voice was soft, almost sweet, but hollow. like a recording played through a rusted speaker. I'm cold. That was when it stopped being Lila. The smile stretched too wide. The head tilted too far. The neck popped like someone snapping a stick. And then she dropped, no, slammed, down on all fours. Her limbs jerked, twisted backward like a broken puppet, and she scuttled into the desert like a spider skittering into the dark. Alia screamed and slammed the door. None of us moved. Not for a minute. Maybe 5. It felt like the whole desert had gone still. No wind. No sound. Even the stars seemed to shrink away from that stretch of road. Shane broke the silence. "Skinwalker," he said, barely above a whisper. "That wasn't her. You know that, right?" But he was wrong, because even if it wasn't her body, it knew things only Lila could know. Her scar, her hoodie, the way she used to whisper, "I'm cold," just to mess with me before bedtime, even in the middle of July. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was still staring into the night, hoping to see her again, praying I wouldn't. We drove the rest of the way in silence. No music, no jokes, just the sound of rubber humming against asphalt and Alia sniffling behind the wheel. We made a pact that night. We wouldn't talk about it. Not to our parents. Not to friends. Not to each other. Some things are better left buried in the desert. For a while it worked. Until the text started. The first one came a month later. Middle of the night. No contact name. Just a number I hadn't seen in years. It was Lila's. The message said, "Cold." I stared at the screen for 10 straight minutes. Thought it had to be a prank. Maybe someone got a hold of her number after she passed. I blocked it. A week later, another message. Different number. Same word. Cold. I changed my phone. Got a new SIM. Didn't matter. They kept coming. Cold. I'm cold. Come outside. I started sleeping with the lights on. Started seeing her face in the corner of mirrors. In the back window of my car. Once, I even saw her reflection in the TV while it was turned off, grinning. Shane told me he got messages too. He moved out of state last year. Alia won't speak to me anymore. I think she saw more than she let on that night. I think she knows something I don't. I've tried everything. Cleansing, burning sage, praying, deleting every photo I ever had of Lila. Nothing works. Because the truth is, I'm not sure it isn't her. What if something is wearing her face, borrowing her memories? What if she's trapped, and the only way out is through me? I dream about her now, every single night. Same hoodie, same scar, same voice. She stands at the foot of my bed, head cocked to the side, and says the same thing over and over. "I'm cold. Let me in." And the worst part, I'm starting to believe I should. Story 3. It was supposed to be a simple winter survey job in the northern forests of Ontario. Nothing I hadn't done before. Just another seasonal contract logging tree data, mapping the frost line, making sure the boreal boundaries hadn't shifted after the last cold front. You know, government stuff. Cold, quiet, boring. There were 5 of us. Me, an old-timer named Dale who smelled like motor oil and bourbon, a wiry kid named Colin Fresh out of forestry school, a quiet woman named Renee who mostly kept to herself, and then there was Travis. Travis had been hired last minute. He was a know-it-all type, mouthy, city-raised. Thought he was tougher than the rest of us because he wore a camo jacket and watched survival videos on YouTube. Our guide was a Cree man named Jonah. He didn't say much unless it was important. When we first arrived at base camp, an old ranger station half buried in snow, He pulled each of us aside and looked us dead in the eyes. "No whistling at night," he said, "and never walk alone. Ever." He said it with such gravity that even Travis laughed awkwardly afterward, as if trying to shake off the way Jonah's voice had made the air colder. Of course, Travis didn't believe in any of it. "Come on," he snorted over dinner that first night. "It's all that native folklore crap. Wendigos, skin demons, winter spirits. Just spooky bedtime stories to keep kids from wandering off." Jonah didn't respond. He just stared at him for a long time, then turned away and stirred the fire like he was hiding something in the flames. The first 2 nights were uneventful. We worked during the day, hiked through knee-deep snow, taking core samples and readings. The woods were silent, unnaturally so. No birds, no rustling, not even the creak of trees bending in the wind. Just cold and silence, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Night 3 is when it happened. We had just finished eating freeze-dried stew and coffee strong enough to strip paint. Travis said he was going out to smoke. Jonah stood up immediately. "No," he said, firm. "Stay inside after dark." But Travis just smirked and grabbed his lighter. "What? The big bad Wendigo gonna get me?" He chuckled and stepped out, letting the cold wind rush into the cabin. He didn't come back. At first, we figured he'd wandered a little ways off. Maybe slipped, twisted an ankle, got lost. Jonah said nothing, just sat by the door, staring out into the trees like he was waiting for something. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, we grabbed flashlights and went searching. The woods felt heavier that night. The snow had started falling, thick flakes that made it hard to see more than 10 feet in any direction. But we found his trail, boot prints leading out, then stopping. Just gone, like he'd vanished mid-step. A few feet ahead, we found him, or what was left of him. Travis was crouched in the snow, completely naked, even though it was below freezing. His skin was covered in frostbite and scratches, and he was muttering something over and over in a low, garbled voice none of us understood. His eyes were gone, just black holes, like something had scooped them out. His fingers were chewed down to bone, not cut, bitten. Some were still in his mouth, like he'd tried to eat them to stay warm, or maybe something else had forced him to. Renee vomited right there in the snow. Colin froze like a statue. I couldn't speak, couldn't even move. Jonah just stared at him, quiet, calm. Then he whispered. He called it. The Wendigo answered. He didn't have to explain. We all felt it. Something had heard Travis when he mocked the legends. Something ancient and starved that lived between the trees and came when called, especially by fools. The ground around Travis was clawed like a bear had been trying to dig up from underneath. Except no bear moves like that. No bear twists the trees around it like they're made of soft clay. Because that's what we saw next. The tree line just beyond where Travis sat was wrong. The trunks were bent and warped, almost like they had been leaning away from something that had passed through. The sap frozen mid-drip, the air sharp and still as death. I looked up and thought I saw something. Tall, thin, moving between the trees without making a sound. It wasn't snow that filled the air. It was silence, so deep it rang in your ears. Jonah didn't say a word. He just turned and walked back to the cabin. The next morning, we packed up. We didn't talk. No one questioned Jonah's decision to leave Travis there. He said it was too late. that whatever had touched him wasn't finished, and bringing him back would only invite it closer. We left that day. Renee quit forestry altogether. Colin disappeared 2 months later. His parents said he started sleepwalking and one night just never came home. Dale drank himself into a stroke. I haven't been back to the north since. Every winter, when the trees start to freeze and the wind howls through the branches, I hear something soft, a voice in the snow, just beneath the gusts. It doesn't speak in words, just hunger. Sometimes in my dreams, I see Travis crouching at the tree line, his mouth twitching, his fingers gone, his eye socket still black. And sometimes, God help me, he's smiling. Story 4. When I was 12, my Uncle Jim took me ice fishing in northern Minnesota, just the two of us and his old friend Dale. They were both Vietnam vets, tough as nails and quiet as the woods we camped in. It was supposed to be a weekend of bonding, a rite of passage or something. We stayed in a small wooden shack on a frozen lake, surrounded by endless pine trees and silence thick enough to choke you. It was January, and the cold there wasn't like normal cold. It was like the air had teeth. I remember the fire crackling inside the shack, the way the wind howled outside like it was alive and angry. At night, when the lanterns were off, the darkness felt heavy. My uncle told me to stay close, not to wander from the camp. Snow'll eat you alive if you don't respect it, he said. But kids don't listen. Not really. Not when there's curiosity involved. The second morning, just after dawn, I stepped out to use the bathroom and noticed something strange. Tracks. Long, narrow prints that didn't look like boots or any animal I'd ever seen. They stretched off into the trees, half buried by fresh snow. I followed them. I don't know why. I just remember feeling this pull, like something was calling me softly, gently, not with words, but with a feeling. I wandered for what must have been 15 minutes before I realized the snow had started falling again. Heavy flakes, the kind that make the world go white and quiet all at once. I looked back and saw nothing but my own fading footprints. I turned around, tried to retrace my steps, but everything looked the same. Trees, snow, gray sky. The silence became loud, like a scream held under your breath. That's when I saw him. He was walking ahead of me, maybe 30 feet away. Tall, skinny, wearing what looked like rags or maybe fur, but not any fur I recognized. He moved like the wind was pushing him, long strides, never looking back. I should have turned around. I should have shouted. But I was 12, scared and freezing, and he seemed like the only thing in that endless white who knew where he was going. So I followed. We went deeper into the trees. The snow kept falling. I called out just once. Hey, I remember how weak my voice sounded. The man stopped, and then he turned around. I'll never forget that face. Not ever. His skin looked frostbitten, waxy, pulled so tight across his face you could see the bones underneath. His cheeks were hollow like someone had carved them out with a spoon. His nose was gone, just 2 slits above cracked lips. No, not lips. He had no lips, just teeth. Big, yellow, too many of them. And eyes. God, the eyes. Deep black pits, like staring down into a frozen well. He smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't come from joy, but from hunger. You're cold, huh? He said. His voice was low, gravelly, like ice scraping across rock. He reached into his coat. or maybe into himself. I couldn't tell, and pulled out a strip of something. Meat, dry, bloody at the edges. You can eat, he said. Stay warm. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was frozen, not just by the cold, but by the rawness of it all. Something primal in me, something buried in my gut, screamed no. I dropped my head and ran. I didn't look back. I just ran. Branches clawed at my face, snow soaked into my boots, and my lungs burned with every breath. I don't know how far I got, or how long I was running. Eventually, the world tilted, and everything went black. I woke up in the snow, surrounded by voices. My uncle was holding me, his face pale and wet with tears. Dale was cursing under his breath, fumbling with his coat to wrap around me. I was barefoot. My boots were gone. My lips were blue. I couldn't speak, just stared at the sky. They got me back to the shack, then to a hospital 2 towns over. I told them I got lost. That's it. No mention of the Iceman. No mention of the meat. But I think my uncle knew. He didn't ask questions. Just looked at me different after that. Like he'd seen something too once. I'm 39 now. Live in a small apartment in Minneapolis. Got a decent job. No kids. Never married. But I remember that day like it just happened. And every winter, without fail, I dream of him. He stands at the foot of my bed, tall and still, snow falling from his shoulders like ash. His skin is stretched tighter, his eyes deeper, and he smiles. He always smiles. Then he whispers, same words every time. You're cold. Eat. Stay warm. I never respond. Never move. Just pray for morning. Because I know if I ever speak to him, if I ever reach out for what he offers, I won't wake up. Not the same. Not ever again.